this game is boring, it's not good basketball. Then all of a sudden, everything got spicy. Everything got negative. We need to talk about it. You guys, this is my live reaction.
When the Fever president was made public on live television, Sophie Cunningham didn't hold back. Her comments had a greater effect than anyone could have predicted, and the front desk is already in disarray.
Who would be?
What?
Sabrina? No.
However, this is more than a single viral event. It's a full-fledged reckoning. From questionable silences to an unanticipated cultural catastrophe, I have all the messy details, the repercussions, and the receipts.
People will try to argue that she's not the face of our league.
Yeah.
Or if our league would be where we're at without her. You're dumb as shit.
Yeah.
You're literally dumb as fuck.
You guys played at Iowa.
It was supposed to be a typical post-game. No drama, no focus, just another microphone, another player, another wrap-up. But in less than 15 seconds, Sophie Cunningham stepped in and made everything clear. You're a stupid if you don't believe that Caitlin Clark is the league's face. It was more than a single-line quotation. It was a verbal bomb. No filter, no cushion, just detonation. Suddenly, the WNBA was doing more than just basketball. There was a civil war going on at the time. After all, this was not an opinion. It was challenging. A blatant shot at the veterans who have been avoiding Clark since the outset. A kick to the CEOs who are sheltering themselves behind company reticence and PR statements. And in the middle of a league that was already collapsing under pressure, a warning sign emerged. In just a few minutes, the internet exploded. On TikTok, videos with action movie clips are quite popular. Sophie became a vigilante because to Twitter threads. Instagram was flooded with memes, reels, and homage posts. They called her the enforcer, the bodyguard, and the last true survivor. However, no one is talking about this part. It didn't have a soundbite. It felt like the unadulterated, tarnished truth from someone who has had enough of the fake smiles and false respect. Cunningham wasn't just standing by Clark. She was accompanying her into the fire. Silence returned to the main desk of the Fever. Because Sophie spoke like a warrior as Indiana's leadership went into a PR frenzy after seeing one of their own initiate a rebellion in real time. They also didn't have a plan for the future. But first, if what Sophie just stated has already made you upset, please hit the like button. The more we debate this, the more difficult it will be for the league to ignore it. Let's make some noise. I got her, but at the very end, and I'm not saying this is what caused it, but she sank a little bit, but she did dip, and then Ragamuffin was like, "Oh shit, my bad, not really my bad." And then they both came at me. I was like, fuck it, come. Did you get a fine for that? Yes, our fines are ridiculous. Roughly $900. I didn't care about your face, which is the finest thing about the fight. The referees penalized her $900. Slow-motion replays circulated on Twitter, making Sophie laugh. The similar message appears in every caption, "Defend the Queen." The highlight reel, however, did not fully convey the story. It happened later. In the changing room, Caitlin turned to face Sophie and stated, "Finally." Not wow, not thank you, simply finally. That was the voice of exhaustion. Months of silence, elbows, and bruises came to an end with that. Sophie just looked her in the eye and said, "I understand." Just two players concentrating on something genuine. No cameras, no PR filters. At that time, it was no longer about basketball. Clark was no longer just an observer. She became a symbol. Sophie was more than simply a teammate, too. She turned into a rallying cry. That one act of disobedience drove the Fever into a line in the sand. Unity or cooperation. After a hit like that and a response like Sophie's, it was hard to go back to business as usual, thus the majority chose togetherness. The battleground had been sketched, and the message was quite obvious. Stay out of the way or defend one another. I find it unbelievable that individuals are acting in this way. There were two teammates of Caitlin Clark who did not leap in. Sophie Cunningham is introduced. I didn't know. At 6 years old, Sophie Cunningham was a black belt. Yes. Tomorrow, you're on the Las Vegas Strip. What may be a show on the Las Vegas Strip? You know what, though? I will simply be myself. I don't try to predict anything when I go in. I'm so focused, you know. I must concentrate on making my shots and ensuring that I am carrying out the plans correctly. I'm not paying attention to extracurricular activities. And you know what? It was merely a part of the game at the time. I believe that was largely due to the referees. For the past few years, there has been a build-up to their failure to safeguard the WNBA's premier player. Thus, I believe behind the scenes, the temperature was rising. Sophie Cunningham did not toss JCS Sheldon at random. She had been witnessing the slow burn for months. It was the recognition of patterns, not paranoia. The league's clandestine attempts to dehumanize Caitlin Clark were not the result of an online conspiracy. From the sidelines, almost everyone was aware of it. Late bumps follow the whistle. There were smirks on the bench and cautious comments on the buses. It is not something she deserves. W will break her before she succeeds because she isn't ready for him. Sophie, on the other hand, recorded every second. While the rest of the league played dumb, she maintained mental receipts. But when Clark was leveled for the 6th time in a single game, it came to an end. The explosion was unavoidable when the match and fuse came into contact. She didn't react carelessly. It was just. And when the footage went back to the Fever locker room, something was different. The days of pretending are done. Ignoring the punches is over. As the players watched Sophie, one of them finally jumped up and cried, "Enough!" And that enthusiasm spread fast. Suddenly, neutrality was out of the question. Clark or the stillness were with you. Quiet also had a face. The Fever president vanished when her star was attacked. Buzzwords, no declarations, no support, corporate shyness. Meanwhile, Sophie was taking action in the trenches that the leadership had refused to take. They also observed the team. Because when the storm returns, they won't be pursuing the person in the press box. They are traveling with someone who has proved that she is prepared to fight. Riding the Caitlin Clark championship wave like it's their last shot to survive, the WNBA has been garnering headlines, increasing viewership, and boosting item sales. When it came to really defending herself on the court, Sophie Cunningham was not going to put up with that double standard, not even a hint from higher management. She went scorched earth, targeting the league's suits with a flamethrower loaded with receipts. Wearing a gorgeous attire, she hypocritically insulted the referees. If that were me, I would be ejected. However, Caitlin will not receive any assistance, a whistle, or terrible justice. Then she used a blowtorch to face the league's executives. Despite the fact that they profit off her, they will not stand up for her. Not only were those comments heated, but they were also radioactive. The video went popular on the internet. T-shirts were printed by them. The courtside rows were filled with protest signs. Sophie's tirade didn't feel like an interview. It resembled a manifesto. A call to action for all the supporters who had been watching the hits pile up without any consequences. Suddenly, Cunningham was more than just a player. She was the league's most dangerous truth-teller. The president with the Fever disappeared in the meantime. The social media dark press team is absent. No quotes, no defense, just silence. The league's reputation began to suffer during that quiet. Because the WNBA was making money off of the disturbance in addition to failing to protect their star. It wasn't simply bad officiating that Sophie highlighted. She showed a system that was dependent on Clark's attention while allowed her to operate in the background. This was not a mistake in public relations. It was the entire fucking plan. And Cunningham's one viral mic drop put the league in a precarious position. Either defend your stars or acknowledge that you're using them. A middle ground is no longer possible. You can hear it in this video, I thought to you guys. Sophie, Sophie, was being chanted by the Indiana Fever supporters. Sophie, Sophie, Sophie. Sophie's jersey is going to sell out tonight. Because she was standing on business on this one play, she will be included in tonight's All-Star game. The play wasn't filthy. It was a premeditated foul and it was designed to send a message. And how disgusting the officials were and how they failed to keep players safe. In particular, they weren't defending Caitlin Clark, the league's top player and biggest attraction. Yes, the supporters were unaware. After seeing every push, every recall, and every instance of league silence, they had had enough of being courteous. Sophie lit the match, and the fanbase supplied the petrol. These were not your typical WNBA fans sipping tea in the rafters. These were Clark fans, YouTube reactors, TikTok warriors, and Twitter parents who saw their daughter being abused while the league did nothing but sell shirts. The uprising had a face all of a sudden. Sophie Cunningham, the enforcer, the truth-teller, the one who didn't wait for PR approval. TikToks fell like confetti. Sophie's outburst is cut to gladiator music, with slow-motion shots of Clark's bruises and lines like, "She's getting mauled and they call it defense." One young person posted on social media, "I've never watched a WNBA game before, but I'd go to war for Sophie." In just 48 hours, her fanbase grew from 200,000 to over 1 million. The jerseys were completely sold out. Parents were posting heartfelt notes. Even middle school students were mimicking Sophie during rehearsal. It wasn't marketing. The league stayed stuck on the same buffering screen despite the movement. They said some standard business cliches, such as league conduct and respect for rivals. Not a single word about Caitlin Clark, nothing human, nothing personal. Since it was now more than just missed calls, the rage broke out at that point. It was about a moment of betrayal, a player, and a fan base. Sophie wasn't done either. If you don't stand up for her, you're alienating the same individuals that are attempting to preserve your league. Boom. The best line of the century. Outside of stadia, it was seen on yells, banners, and t-shirts. Because the WNBA ignored its star and insulted their entire future. In contrast, the admirers were willing to give up their girl, their money, and their allegiance. Take a moment to pause. Do you think Sophie is the only one ready to criticize the system? Make room for the next WNBA player you think will lose it. The fire is just getting started. I want to thank the Indiana Fever supporters for coming in so strong and for doing exactly what fans are supposed to do. Every time these players touched the ball, they were jeered. They were starting to move. They were getting after it. To be honest, I'm shocked that the WNBA hasn't started an inquiry yet. However, the Connecticut Stun began to feel ashamed, which is not a good situation. When you're on the court, that is. Actually, a dangerous place to be. I was therefore concerned that things might get even more rough because occasionally a team may turn nasty and become more aggressive when they feel like they have nothing to lose. Furthermore, this is not just an isolated incident. This was no longer just about Caitlin Clark. Sophie Cunningham tossed more than one match. The whole system lit up as she got to her feet because she wasn't just defending Clark. She was unveiling something dreadful behind the curtain. A league that desired attention eventually got it, and then freaked out when it came to wearing Clark jerseys and demanding change. To be honest, Sophie exposed the animosity, envy, and narrow-minded gatekeeping of vets who act as though it's a necessary part of their work. No, it wasn't hazing. It was sabotage. The whispers was practically audible. It wasn't fair to her. She's just another white lady with a lot of hype. She stayed out of the fight. No, she brought in the ratings, packed the stadiums, and made your paychecks meaningful. And instead of enjoying that, other players made it a hit job. That's not how sisterhood works. That is self-destruction. Then Sophie uttered the phrase that clarified everything. This is what we've always wanted. Why are we angry that it's finally happening? It wasn't just a mic drop. No one in a position of power has the guts to say that. Because the system was not built to grow, but rather to grind and survive. So when the spotlight eventually turned on, it froze. The president of the Fever resigned. The league said nothing. Fans didn't realize they were waiting for Sophie's voice. She wasn't attempting to play the hero. But when no one else spoke, she developed into something more. A line in the sand, a walking uprising in a high ponytail, the first to swing with purpose. Sophie Cunningham just told the truth, unsettling the entire system while the league stalled in PR limbo. Sophie entered the spotlight with facts, fire, and rage even though she didn't ask for it. The league now has an alternative. Change or burn. Caitlin Clark brought the audience, but Sophie Cunningham brought the war. The story is far from over. To ensure you don't miss anything, please leave a comment, subscribe, and turn on all alerts. After you click the video on the screen, I'll see you in the next one.